Rachel Morin, mother of five, an avid runner into health and fitness, went for a run on a local trail in Maryland on Saturday, August 5th. Never returned. So much information, so much to unpack.
Well, she was found along a running path that she normally utilized for exercise. She was brutally assaulted and found off the path in a area. So again, outdoor environment, but relatively short period of time between reported missing and found, less chance for environmental factors and decomp and critters and scavenging and things of that nature. You get to this body, you get to the scene, you have to understand the path. You're going to look for signs of movement on the path, footwear impressions, and then off the path, any signs of the indigenous plant life being disturbed, any transfer of hairs and fibers onto the plants and away from the plants, soil, footwear impressions, all of these things out there off the path in the wooded areas. Obviously, you're going to document everything, photograph, sketch, take a lot of notes. You're going to photograph the body, head to toe, toe to head, whole 9 yards, everything around there. You're going to search everything around there. You're going to search the body for hairs and fibers. You're going to search the body for bruising on the skin that may be indicative of grabbing and leaving fingerprints and DNA on the skin. You're going to use alternate light sources, infrared photography, to try to find these bruising areas and then search them for fingerprints, search the skin for fingerprints, search the body and the clothing for hairs and fibers. You're going to take soil samples as well, especially along the path that led to the body from the fixed path of the park to where the body was deposited, and grab some soil samples there in hopes that you can find trace evidence on the suspect as well. Any visual examination of what's underneath the fingertips in the field like this. Bag the hands with paper bags, tie the paper bags to the wrist with tape, and at a fixed medical examiner's facility, then do scrapings underneath the fingernails. I understand there was a horrific assault involved in here. Then you would want to find that murder weapon, package that up. You want to search that murder weapon for fingerprints, DNA, hairs and fibers, and things of that nature. And now we know that they, in fact, did DNA work in Maryland. They found the DNA profile of a male, unknown male, Hispanic, put the DNA into CODIS. Remember, CODIS stands for the Combined Offender DNA Index System. Now, there's two sets of databases in CODIS. The first database is the offender database, known perps that are in there, okay? And then there's the unidentified database from crime scenes. Well, they ran the genetic profile they obtained from the DNA material from the victim into the CODIS system. Nothing popped on the known offender database, but on the unknown crime scene database, they matched an unknown male Hispanic from a crime in Los Angeles involving a teenager in a home invasion, robbery, and assault.
The perpetrator of the crime was on the lam for 10 months. And many people thought that law enforcement, when the case was going cold and they weren't doing anything. But guess what? The long arm of the law reached out and grabbed this perpetrator, who is an illegal alien in this country illegally. His name is Victor Martinez Hernandez, 23 years old, and he's got numerous murders under his belt. He murdered someone in his home country in El Salvador in January of 2023. He fled that country after a month of being on the run and came here to the United States, where his reign of terror continued. After the murder that he committed in El Salvador, he came here illegally across the border and then perpetrated a crime in California. And guess what, folks? He wasn't done. He went clear across the United States and went to Maryland, to a quiet area in Maryland, Bel Air, Maryland, where the crime rate is so low. And he murdered and raped a mother of five. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He didn't stop his reign of terror. He was finally caught in the middle of our country. This guy is a murdering machine, and he's up to no good.
Well, some emotional words from the mother of Rachel Morin after police have arrested a suspect in connection to the murder of her daughter.
See, after a 10-month-long investigation, the Harford County Sheriff's Office has announced that 23-year-old Victor Martinez Hernandez was taken into custody last night in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The sheriff says that a new lead came in a few weeks ago that cracked this case open and led to the arrest of this man in a case that has haunted the Harford County community for 10 months now.
New developments in the trial of the man accused of killing Rachel Morin back in 2023.
Well, much of this afternoon was spent hearing from a digital forensics expert about what went into reviving Rachel Morin's smashed iPhone, not only to learn more about her personal life, but also to learn more about the timing of the events that happened on August 5th, 2023. Health data pulled from Rachel Morin's iPhone and Apple Watch show a spike in her heart rate at 7:07 at 115 beats per minute. By 7:09 and 7 seconds, her heart rate had dropped to 69 beats per minute and down to 62 beats per minute just 26 seconds later. This is the time investigators believe Morin was killed on August 5th, 2023. But it was a process to learn that information. After digital forensics examiner Megan Waltemeyer explained the process of removing the logic board from Morin's smashed phone and swapping it out in a functional phone to access her data. We also heard in-depth testimony today from lead detective Philip Golden about how, despite searching Morin's phone and social media, speaking with family and friends, and canvassing the area, they were unable to track any potential suspects directly linked to Morin. This comes after testimony this morning from Kyle Stacy, one of the last people to see Morin alive. He was hiking on the Ma and Pa Trail when he heard a branch snap in the wooded area off the main stretch and made eye contact with a man holding a stick.
A detective taking the stand for hours today described it as a massive attack against Rachel Morin. He spent a lot of time showing pictures, walking jurors through exactly how they found Morin's body the day they arrived to the scene. They found blood all over her face, bruising all over her bodies, other graphic images. Rachel Morin found unclothed. And again, as someone sitting in the courtroom watching these photos and watching this testimony, it was extremely hard to watch, especially for her family sitting right there watching all of this unfold. But of course, these graphic photos really showing the gravity of the crime, they're just part of the long list of evidence the state submitted today. Martinez Hernandez is from El Salvador, in the country unlawfully. Randolph Rice, the attorney representing Patty Morin, Rachel's mom, is watching this case closely.
I thought it was a really strong morning for the state.
Tearing up on the stand, Cecilia Ocorso recounted the moments she and her friend Evan Knapp veered off the main Ma and Pa Trail following a smaller path into the woods, finding a bloody rock, and ultimately, as Evan Knapp then found Morin's body in a storm drain tunnel. We heard the chaotic moments as Cecilia called 911.
She was literally in shock from what she just saw, the fact that she just found Rachel Morin's body along with the other individuals she was with. I mean, it was just heartbreaking to hear.
As Cecilia was talking to the dispatcher, you could hear both the panic and pain in her voice. She says after the discovery, Evan was, quote, distraught, in shock, and quiet.
I mean, she was even saying that she was going to break down, and like the 911 dispatcher had to say, look, if you can't handle it, you need to sit down.
Then the jury heard from several deputies from the Harford County Sheriff's Office who responded to the scene. One deputy describing the moments he found Morin's, quote, smashed and shattered Apple Watch.
That actually was found across the trail, which implies that that watch was possibly thrown by somebody, by the suspect, obviously is what the state's going to say here. So it was also crushed. So that's really important evidence to show that somebody tried to destroy it.
Another deputy describing a bloody path of leaves coming off the main trail. That deputy, a crime scene investigator, also working with others on the scene, realized they quickly needed to preserve Morin's body and DNA evidence. With her body sitting in an inch of water and the hot and humid weather, they were seeing signs it was starting to decompose. Morin's phone also found in the tunnel, severely damaged. But the defense trying to make some points, poking holes in the state's case, asking questions, insinuating the tunnel may have been too dark to see anything, and pressing deputies on if they followed proper protocol for getting the DNA evidence from Morin's body, like getting permission from the medical examiner's office.
It seems like this is a pretty insignificant fact that the defense is trying to press here, that somehow they didn't get permission from the Office of Medical Examiner. My guess is the OCME is going to come in and say, you know, it's not a requirement requirement that you get permission, but it's just a procedural thing.
And this afternoon, detectives also walked jurors through exactly where they found Morin's Apple, iPhone, iPod, another crucial piece of that evidence. But
during the first 2 days of testimony, the state laid out the tragic timeline of Morin's death. Now they're shifting gears to examining her injuries and the collection of DNA evidence, which will ultimately be at the center of their case.
The family of Rachel Morin re-entering the Harford County Courthouse for another day of gut-wrenching testimony as the state continues to make their case against Victor Martinez Hernandez. New photos shown from the state medical examiner's office. Dr. Zabihullah Ali testifying in his 23 years of performing autopsies. This one stands out due to the sheer number of injuries. The disturbing images taken 8 to 10 hours after Morin's death, showing nearly every inch of her body covered in scrapes and bruises. Dr. Ali testifying he found fractures on her nose, skull, and ribs, in addition to a 6 by 6 inch gash on the back of her head, cut so deep her skull could be seen. In his medical opinion, Dr. Ali suggesting Morin fought back but was strangled, hit over the head 10 to 15 times, presumably with a rock, and likely unconscious when raped. The position I received her in was indicative of sexual assault. Basically, she was naked, he said on the stand. Soon to come, the DNA evidence at the center of their investigation, allegedly tying Martinez Hernandez to this crime and a separate home invasion and assault in California, attempting to poke holes in their argument. The defense questioning if the evidence was properly collected, asking if fresh gloves were worn to gather each piece, and if it was appropriate for some DNA swabs to be taken at the scene. Dr. Ali playfully responding, I prefer law enforcement to take swabs at the scene, so I don't have to do too much work.
The state is debunking a lot of the defense's arguments.
In the courtroom, Morin's half-sister Erin brought to tears by the jarring new photos, while her alleged killer showed no emotion.
Taken as a whole, the testimony today put the defendant in Bel Air near the crime scene in the months before and after Rachel Morin's murder. For the first 5 months of 2024, he was crashing with cousins in the D.C. suburbs. In April of that year, the FBI came knocking, and that was more than a month before Harford County detectives did. The state, for the second day in a row in the Rachel Morin murder trial, focused on timelines. On Wednesday, the jury heard about Ms. Morin's movements leading up to her murder on August 5th, 2023, went to Target to make a purchase, stopped at Wawa too, and then headed to Bel Air's Monpont Trail for her regular workout.
Seeing the last photos of Rachel alive, very, very difficult for the family. Today, though, they're not as emotional because I think this, again, is a timeline day.
Today, prosecution evidence and witness testimony put the man standing trial for the 37-year-old's murder in Bel Air, close to the crime scene, for the 5 months before and the 5 months after the murder.
Jurors saw Martinez Hernandez tell Harford County detectives he's never been to Maryland and he doesn't know anyone who lives here. The suspect even denying knowing a few of his own family members, some of whom provided photo proof of their relationship.
Jurors taking in tense video of the man accused of raping and killing Rachel Morin, lying repeatedly to local law enforcement. During his initial interrogation, Victor Martinez Hernandez telling Harford County detectives he's never been to Maryland, much less lived there. He also denied knowing anyone from the state, including Morin. Statements contradicted by his cell phone records, revealing screenshots of news reports featuring Morin's photo, and testimony from his own family, who cooperated fully with investigators when asked for some of the suspect's belongings. His cousin, Jose Hernandez, turning over shoes and clothing, testifying the suspect stayed at his home in Temple Hills, Maryland for about 5 months in late 2023. Another cousin providing the sheriff's office with a toothbrush and this photo of them from Christmas of 2023. Former co-workers also testifying the suspect worked at this Popeyes and Bel Air restaurant during the summer of 2023, both located in the same shopping center about a mile from the Monpont Trail where Morin was murdered.
It shows that the defendant is a liar. And I think the jury can see that. Certainly, he's not telling the truth when they ask him questions.
The defense noting Martinez Hernandez appeared calm in his interview and willingly waived his right to remain silent.
Did you?
Following his arrest in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Investigators there collecting more belongings from his new address, including a laptop, sketchbook, driver's license from El Salvador, bus tickets, and a Metro card. The defense arguing several people lived in the home, seemingly questioning if the items were his.
Another attempt to try to poke a hole in the state's case, but what was really great was that they found identification papers at that house of Victor Martinez, which links him to that home.
Calling more than 30 witnesses and detailing hundreds of crime scene photos. Throughout the 8-day trial, the state laying down puzzle pieces they now plan to put together with DNA evidence as the state's lead forensic specialist takes the stand.
Now, according to that expert's testimony, the suspect's DNA was found at the crime scene on Morin's Apple Watch, her wrist, neck, and chest.
Late this afternoon, the state told the judge they rest their case. The judge said the jury is likely to get this case on Monday. It came after hours of testimony about DNA and the defendant on video.
This is a very important day that puts the bow on this whole case.
Your DNA was on a pile of stuff you left behind, he was told. A bag of dirty clothes, shoes, a blanket, toothbrush. I don't know, can't be, he said. Also told his DNA was at the murder scene. How could that be, he said. I don't know. Somebody who wants to hurt me probably planted it, he said. Took one of his hairs, collected some of his sweat, and put it there. Who would that be? He was asked. He had a name at the ready. Fiona, he said. At first, she was just jealous because I already had a woman. Then, he said, she became an aggressive stalker that I had to report to police.
The DNA wraps up the crime scene and what happened to Rachel Morin and everything that was found there to the suspect that they arrest in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
On behalf of CrimeTime with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to say thank you, but I want to just send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to not only Rachel Morin's family, her children, extended family, the people who are friends, the community, the law enforcement agencies, and all of the men and women in these multiple agencies working from one side of the United States to the other to bring this brutal murderer to justice. So on behalf of CrimeTime with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we send prayers and strength to them.